The story begins with the warmth and comfort of a summer evening barbecue in a quiet suburban neighborhood, an event that has long been a tradition for two families who share more than just a property line. The setting is almost idyllic. Children chase each other barefoot across the freshly cut grass. Fireflies flicker in the fading sunlight, and the smell of grilled food carries through the air. Adults sit around picnic tables, their laughter rising and falling like the background music of familiarity, their stories woven with decades of shared history. At first glance, this world feels ordinary, safe, and predictable, yet beneath the surface lies a tension invisible to most of those present. The focus slowly narrows to Ethan, a 22-year-old whose quiet confidence contrasts with the youthful sparkle in Sophie's eyes, just 20 and caught in the liminal space between girlhood and womanhood. Their gazes lock in fleeting moments across the yard, almost imperceptible to anyone else. But for them, each glance is loaded filled with years of unspoken yearning, silent what-ifs, and the fear of stepping into forbidden's territory. The barbecue is not just a gathering. It's a stage where appearances must be maintained, where family unity is celebrated, and where Ethan and Sophie must pretend that their hearts are not already entangled. This opening image establishes the duality of the story, the comfortable illusion of family harmony and the dangerous undercurrent of a secret love waiting to surface. The night deepens, and with it comes the traditional toast, a ritual where both families celebrate milestones, memories, and futures. Glasses clink together under string lights as Sophie's father rises, his voice filled with pride and excitement. What begins as a moment of light-hearted storytelling and camaraderie quickly transforms into something heavier, something binding. With a casual confidence, he announces a major business merger between his company and Ethan's father's firm, a partnership years in the making, finally formalized. The crowd erupts in applause, neighbors congratulating them on cementing not only financial success, but also the enduring bond between the two households. Yet for Ethan and Sophie, the announcement lands like a quiet explosion. Their families are no longer just neighbors and friends. They are partners, their futures intertwined not only socially but economically. The unspoken weight in that toast is clear. The merger demands loyalty, trust, and above all, the absence of scandal. In an instant, what was already a dangerous affection becomes almost impossible. A love that could shatter not only their hearts, but the foundations their families have built. The hook conflict emerges with precision. How can Ethan and Sophie even think of confessing their feelings now, when the cost of exposure is not just personal heartbreak, but the unraveling of everything their parents have worked for? Later that night, under the cover of darkness and away from the watchful eyes of their families, Ethan and Sophie steal away to their secret meeting place by the lake. The water reflects the pale moonlight, rippling softly as though mirroring their unsteady emotions. Here, the polished smiles and careful facades from earlier are stripped away, leaving only raw vulnerability. They stand close, hesitant, the silence between them filled with years of suppressed emotion and fear of the consequences. Every word spoken is edged with urgency, the longing to finally admit their feelings, weighed down by the terror of what revelation would mean. Sophie's voice trembles as she whispers the line that encapsulates their dilemma. If they ever find out, it won't just break us. It'll destroy them. In that one breath, the stakes are made crystal clear. Their love is not just about two people, it's about two families. Two legacies, two futures now bound together by pride and business. The lake scene captures the emotional punch, the secret no one else suspects, but which carries the power to ruin everything. It's a heartbreaking moment, because while the world around them celebrates unity and success, Ethan and Sophie are left grappling with a truth that isolates them even further. This moment doesn't just establish the tension, it hooks the audience. forcing them to wonder, will they risk everything for love or sacrifice their own happiness to preserve the fragile illusion of family perfection? Ethan, at 22, has grown up under the shadow of his father's expectations. As the oldest son, he has always been cast as the heir apparent to the family business, groomed from adolescence to understand deals, contracts, and responsibility. To outsiders, Ethan seems like the perfect successor, disciplined, loyal, with a natural charisma that makes people trust him. But beneath that composed exterior is a young man suffocating under pressure. His dreams, whatever they once were, have long been buried beneath obligations and unspoken duty. Every decision he makes is measured, every action judged not just by his parents, but by the community that sees him as the future of the family empire. Ethan carries the quiet weight of being the one who cannot falter, the one who cannot stray. This expectation has hardened him in some ways, making him dependable and selfless, but it has also left him aching for freedom, for the chance to make a choice for himself without fearing he might unravel his family's legacy. His loyalty keeps him anchored, yet it also chains him, ensuring that every breath he takes is in rhythm with his father's vision, not his own. Sophie, at 20, lives a life that looks charmed on the surface. She is the youngest daughter in a well-respected family, adored for her sweetness and innocence. Her parents, particularly her father, see her as the one who will carry on their professional pride, pushing her toward law school to fulfill the image of a polished, respectable daughter. To everyone else, Sophie is obedient, the kind who doesn't rock the boat, who smiles at the right moments and always says the right thing. But Sophie's inner world is far more turbulent. She sketches late into the night, pours her soul into canvases hidden away in closets, and dreams of pursuing art instead of law. Her rebellion isn't loud or dramatic. It is quiet, secretive, and burning beneath the surface like a steady flame. The more her parents insist on her following their path, the stronger her desire to escape grows. Yet, the innocence she's wrapped in makes her rebellion invisible to those around her. Everyone underestimates her, assuming she will fall in line, never realizing she is already fighting to carve out an identity that doesn't belong to her family's image, but to her. The unspoken bond between Ethan and Sophie has been forged not out of sudden passion, but out of years of shared survival. Flashbacks reveal the roots of their closeness. Ethan sneaking, Sophie out of the house so she could attend concerts her parents forbade. Sophie quietly comforting Ethan during late-night arguments between his parents, both of them providing each other with the kind of freedom and solace they could not find elsewhere. Their love didn't begin with attraction. It was born from a mutual understanding of what it feels like to be trapped, to play roles that don't fit, to be suffocated by the weight of family expectations. Over the years, that bond deepened into something unspoken but undeniable, a love that feels both inevitable and forbidden. In the present, both are trapped more than ever. Ethan cannot step out of line without jeopardizing his family's future, and Sophie cannot pursue her true passion without betraying her father's vision for her life. The stakes are higher now because their families are not just close, they are entwined through business, history, and reputation. For Ethan and Sophie, the risk is not only personal heartbreak, but the collapse of the entire delicate structure both families have built. Their love is both salvation and destruction, the one thing that gives them hope and the one thing that could shatter everything. The family party is meant to be another evening of celebration, another show of unity between the two households, but beneath the surface, Ethan and Sophie are already stretched thin with the weight of their silence. Amid laughter, clinking glasses, and the glow of chandeliers, they slip away for just a moment, seeking refuge from the noise in the pantry. It is a simple act, his hand brushing against hers, then holding it firmly, as though grounding themselves in the chaos of their roles. For Ethan and Sophie, the touch is not scandalous but necessary. The only way to remind each other that they still exist as more than children of obligation. But fate intervenes in the form of Sophie's cousin, a sharp-eyed girl who stumbles upon them at the wrong time. She doesn't confront them directly, but lingers just long enough for the air to shift, her smirk suggesting knowledge she should not have. When she leaves, Sophie and Ethan are left with pounding hearts, knowing their secret has been cracked open, even if only slightly. The cousin doesn't expose them outright, but she drops subtle, pointed comments throughout the night, teasing remarks about Sophie's blush, casual observations about Ethan always being nearby. To everyone else, it's harmless chatter, but for Ethan and Sophie, every word feels like a loaded threat. The walls around their secret world have begun to crumble, and the danger is no longer imagined but real. As if the cousin's silent insinuations weren't enough, the evening spirals into something far worse. Midway through the party, Ethan's father raises his glass, commanding the room's attention with a booming confidence that has always made Ethan feel both proud and trapped. What follows is an announcement that freezes Ethan's blood. His father has arranged an engagement for him to the daughter of a powerful business partner he has never even met. The words fall like a hammer disguised as honor, painted as the natural next step in strengthening the family's legacy and cementing the merger. The guests erupt in applause, congratulating Ethan for a future he did not choose, while Sophie stands silently at the edge of the room, her face carefully composed, but her eyes betraying devastation. To the families, this is progress, a triumph of legacy and strategy. To Ethan, it is a sentence. He feels the room close in, every clap echoing like a nail sealing his coffin. Sophie feels it just as sharply. In that moment, she isn't just losing the boy she loves, she's watching her own cage being built in front of her, brick by brick, by the very people who claim to love them. The unspoken rule is clear. Their lives are no longer their own. They are pawns on a board where family pride and corporate interests matter more than personal happiness. Later, away from the crowd, Sophie can no longer hold back the storm inside her. She finds Ethan, her composure shattered, her voice trembling as she spits out the truth they have both been too afraid to admit aloud. They're building her cages and calling it family legacy. It is the most honest sentence she has ever spoken, and in it lies the crushing reality of their situation, the realization that love, freedom, and choice have no place in the worlds their families have created for them. For Ethan, hearing those words ignites something raw, a fury at the life he has been forced into and a desperate need to cling to the one thing that feels real. Sophie. The jam finally breaks. They kiss for the first time, not in tenderness, but in desperation, an act born out of rebellion, grief, and the terrifying awareness that this choice may destroy them. It isn't romantic in the traditional sense, it is survival, a gasp for air before drowning. Their kiss is both a beginning and an end, the start of a love that can no longer be denied, and the end of the illusion that they can keep it hidden or harmless. In that moment, the story pivots. What was once a secret longing becomes an act of defiance. The stakes are no longer theoretical. Their love is now a ticking time bomb, one kiss away from exposing everything and unraveling both families' carefully constructed worlds. Begins as a desperate kiss turns into a double life, a fragile existence lived in the shadows. Ethan and Sophie start sneaking out under the cover of darkness, carving out slivers of time for themselves between obligations, expectations, and lies. Their late-night meetings are stolen miracles, Ethan slipping out of his house after family dinners, Sophie tiptoeing past her parents' watchful eyes. They meet in quiet corners of the town, the lake where they first whispered their fears, an abandoned park bench, even Ethan's truck parked on a secluded road. Every moment is electric, filled with both bliss and dread. When they are together, they laugh freely, kiss hungrily, and allow themselves to dream of a life that feels impossible. But when the night ends, dread settles in the fear of being caught, of losing everything, of their families discovering the truth. The secrecy that once felt thrilling begins to weigh on them, turning joy into guilt. Both of them start to notice how their lies multiply, how even casual conversations with family now require careful calculation. A simple question, "Where were you?" becomes a test of composure. They are trapped between two worlds, the life their families have built for them and the fragile rebellion they are building for themselves. The very secrecy that protects them is slowly becoming poison, eating away at their peace of mind, drawing them deeper into the inevitability of exposure. While Ethan and Sophie cling to each other in stolen hours, daylight brings a harsher reality. Sophie's father grows relentless in his pressure, constantly reminding her of her bright future in law school, dismissing her artistic interests as childish hobbies. She feels her life narrowing into a path she never chose, each lecture another chain tightening around her freedom. Ethan faces the same crushing weight. His father parades him as the future of the family empire, publicly tying his name to the engagement he never asked for. The words responsibility and legacy echo like shackles, forcing him to smile at dinners, shake hands with business partners, and accept congratulations on a marriage that feels like betrayal. Into this already unbearable tension steps Sophie's cousin, no longer content with hints and smirks. He corners Sophie, his voice dripping with menace, and makes his demand: money, or he will reveal everything he knows about her and Ethan. It is the first direct threat, and it cuts like a knife. Sophie feels both anger and fear, anger that her love is being twisted into blackmail, and fear that exposure is now a matter of when, not if. She doesn't tell Ethan right away, knowing the burden will crush him further, but the secret festers, adding another layer of toxicity to their love. What began as escape has now turned into a web of lies, manipulation, and threats, where even family members become enemies. Ethan, feeling the suffocation closing in, reaches his breaking point and confides in his best friend. The words pour out of him, his love for Sophie, the blackmail, the unbearable weight of living a life scripted by others. His friend listens, then delivers a warning that shakes Ethan to his core. You're not just risking heartbreak. You're risking your whole bloodline. For Ethan, the phrase captures the enormity of what he's doing. His choices threaten not just his happiness, but the name, reputation, and empire his family has built for generations. The warning lingers in his mind, gnawing at his resolve, making every kiss with Sophie both sweeter and more damning. Meanwhile, suspicion begins to grow within the families. Sophie's father notices her absence, the way she sneaks away at odd hours, the evasiveness in her answers. One evening at dinner, the tension finally snaps. In front of both families, her father leans forward, his voice sharp, and asks, "Why have you been sneaking around so much?" The question lands like a bomb, silencing the room. Sophie freezes, her fork hovering midair, her pulse thundering in her ears. Ethan grips his glass tightly, fighting to keep his expression neutral. For a moment, the entire carefully crafted facade trembles. The walls are closing in, the lies thinning, and the truth clawing dangerously close to the surface. The dinner table, once a symbol of unity, has now become a stage where every word, every glance is an accusation waiting to ignite. The tension is unbearable, everyone feels it, but only Ethan and Sophie know just how close the secret is to erupting. The breaking point comes not quietly, but like a storm. During a tense family meeting, ostensibly to finalize merger details, the cousin seizes his moment. With a smug confidence sharpened by weeks of secret knowledge, he blurts out what everyone else has been blind to. Ethan and Sophie have been sneaking around, betraying the very trust that binds their families together. His words cut through the air like glass shattering. Silence follows for a heartbeat, then chaos erupts. Voices rise, questions turn to accusations. How could you? After everything we've given you? You've ruined decades of trust. Chairs scrape, tempers flare. Ethan and Sophie sit stunned, their private world ripped wide open under the harsh glare of family judgment. The cousin's revelation isn't just about Forbidden's love. It is framed as a betrayal of blood, of history, of legacy. Parents lash out, siblings whisper in shock, and the room becomes a battlefield. What began as an intimate, fragile secret now burns in the open, dragging both of them into a firestorm of shame and fury. The revelation doesn't just fracture Ethan and Sophie, it ignites a war between the families. Ethan's father, red with rage, demands explanations. Sophie's father calls it a humiliation, accusing Ethan of corrupting his daughter. Old wounds resurface like ghosts, rumors of past infidelities, long-buried financial betrayals, grudges that were papered over for the sake of appearances. The merger, once a symbol of prosperity, teeters on collapse as both families hurl accusations across the room. Threats fill the air: disownment, financial withdrawal, public disgrace. Each word is laced with venom, not just about Ethan and Sophie's love, but about power, control, and the pride each patriarch guards like a weapon. The two young lovers become pawns in a war older than themselves, their relationship used as both evidence and weapon. The family unity that once seemed unbreakable now lies exposed as a fragile illusion, cracking apart under the pressure of truth. For the first time in his life, Ethan refuses to bend. As his father shouts about duty, honor, and the engagement he is expected to uphold, Ethan rises, his voice steady, but his eyes blazing with defiance. "I'm not your soldier. I won't marry for business." The words fall heavy, echoing louder than the chaos around them. For years, Ethan has lived as the dutiful son, carrying the crushing weight of expectation, but in this moment, he shatters the mold. His declaration is not just about Sophie, it is about reclaiming himself, choosing freedom over legacy, love over strategy. The room stills for a moment, the shock of his rebellion silencing even the angriest voices. His father's face contorts with fury, his authority defied publicly for the first time. Sophie watches, torn between pride and dread, knowing this moment is both beautiful and catastrophic. Ethan's stand is a spark, but it threatens to burn down everything: the business, the families, and the future they once believed was secure. If Ethan's rebellion is fire, Sophie's pain is ice. Her father, his pride wounded deeper than words, looks her in the eyes and delivers a sentence colder than death. "You're dead to me?" The room gasps, but he does not flinch. In his world, disobedience is unforgivable. Love outside his control is treason. Sophie's body goes rigid, her heart shattering as she absorbs the rejection she's always feared. She has long been the sweet one, the daughter who never rebelled openly, the one expected to preserve the family's spotless image. Now, with a single act of love, she is cast out, erased from her father's story. The words echo inside her, stripping away years of belonging, turning her into an orphan not by loss, but by choice forced upon her. Ethan reaches for her, his eyes pleading that Sophie is already unraveling, caught between love and devastation, longing and loss. Her father's rejection isn't just cruelty, it's a death sentence for the version of herself that was once cherished. In the aftermath of that devastation, Sophie faces the cruelest truth of all: love cannot always conquer the weight of legacy. With tears streaming down her face, she turns to Ethan, her voice breaking but her resolve steady. "If we keep fighting them, we'll only become them. I can't lose myself too." Her words carry a brutal wisdom. She sees what Ethan cannot yet admit, that their rebellion is already mirroring the wars of their parents. That in fighting to be free, They risk becoming prisoners of the same bitterness and pride. For Sophie, love must mean more than resistance. It must mean preservation of self. The choice she makes is devastating, not because she stops loving Ethan, but because she loves herself enough to walk away. The kiss they once shared, born of desperation, now feels like both a blessing and a curse. To stay would mean drowning in the same cycles they once swore they would escape. To leave is agony, but it is survival. The love that once felt unstoppable, bright, rebellious, and inevitable suddenly collapses under the weight of reality. Ethan's defiance, Sophie's heartbreak, the family's war all collide into an outcome neither of them wanted but both must face. Their connection, so fierce and undeniable, now feels impossible. They stand in the ruins of their secret world, stripped of innocence, stripped of choice, bound by love, yet divided by the destruction it has caused. The silence between them is thick with everything unsaid. The dreams they built together, the nights stolen, the promises whispered. Sophie steps back, her tears glistening, while Ethan remains rooted, torn apart by the loss of both family and love. In this moment, the story pivots from forbidden romance to tragedy, the realization that sometimes the bravest act of love is letting go. The audience is left with the haunting truth. Their love did not fail because it wasn't strong, but because the world around them was built to crush it. The aftermath of the family implosion is brutal and irreversible. Sophie, once the darling of her household, packs her life into boxes and leaves without ceremony. She rents a small apartment on the edge of town, a space barely large enough for her essentials, but it offers something she has never known before: freedom without conditions. The silence is overwhelming at first. No constant chatter of family dinners, no weight of her father's expectations pressing down on her shoulders. It is lonely, but it is hers. For Ethan, the fallout is equally devastating. After his very public defiance, his father demands he follow through with the engagement. Ethan refuses, breaking it off, severing ties with the business empire that was supposed to be his inheritance. In one swift decision, he loses not only the wealth and security promised to him, but the identity that had been drilled into him since childhood. Both Sophie and Ethan are left standing in the wreckage of what their families built, stripped of titles, privilege, and belonging. Yet there is a strange liberation in this destruction. For the first time, they are no longer defined by what their families expect, but by what they choose, even if the choice costs them everything. The process of rebuilding is neither glamorous nor easy, but it is transformative. Sophie throws herself into art with a ferocity she never allowed herself before. Her heartbreak bleeds into her canvases streaks of color that mirror her pain, her defiance, her rebirth. What once felt like a hobby dismissed as childish now becomes her lifeline, a way to reclaim her identity piece by piece. She begins showcasing her work at small community galleries, her voice finally taking shape through paint and brushstroke. Ethan, on the other hand, takes a modest job at a local gym, teaching fitness classes to kids and young adults. It is far removed from the polished boardrooms and financial negotiations he was raised for, but he finds fulfillment in guiding others, in shaping lives not through deals, but through encouragement and discipline. Though humble, the work gives him a sense of purpose that the business empire never did. Both of them are no longer sheltered by privilege. They face bills, self-doubt, and the grind of ordinary life. Yet with every step, they grow stronger, learning that true worth is not inherited but created, and that healing often begins where everything else falls apart. But as Sophie and Ethan no longer speak, their choices echo the love that once bound them. Their separation is not born of hatred, but of necessity and acknowledgement that the weight of their families' collapse made a shared future impossible. Yet, in their parallel lives, the mark of their love is unmistakable. Sophie's courage to pursue art comes from Ethan's unwavering belief that she deserved more than the cage her father built. Ethan's determination to walk away from legacy and expectation is fueled by Sophie's reminder that love and freedom cannot exist without self-respect. They are apart, yet connected, like two stars pulled into separate orbits after colliding, their paths forever altered by that impact. Each brushstroke Sophie paints, each class Ethan teaches, carries the residue of their rebellion, the quiet power of a love that, even in ending, gave them the strength to become who they truly are. Their story does not close with reunion or fairy tale promises, but with empowerment, showing that sometimes love's greatest gift is not permanence, but the courage to break chains and choose oneself. In their silence, they honor the love that made them brave enough to be free. A year later, Sophie's life looks nothing like the gilded cage she once lived in. Her small apartment is cluttered with canvases, brushes, and paint-stained rags, the walls alive with the chaos of her creativity. And on this night, she stands in the middle of a modest art gallery, her first showcase. Friends, strangers, and critics wander from piece to piece, murmuring about her raw style, her haunting use of color. But the centerpiece of the night is one canvas, taller and wider than the rest. Two shadowed figures standing apart, divided by a brutal wall of blood-red paint. Yet, in the chaos of crimson, their hands nearly reach across the divide, their fingertips separated by a sliver of empty space. It is a painting that stops people in their tracks, one that radiates grief, longing, and defiance all at once. Sophie stands beside it, answering questions with polite detachment, but her eyes betray the truth. This painting is not just art, it is confession. It is Ethan, it is her, it is the love that destroyed and rebuilt her. The applause of strangers feels distant compared to the silent echo of what the painting represents. As the night continues, Sophie notices a stillness at the edge of the crowd. Her breath catches. Ethan is there. He stands quietly, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed not on her but on the painting. The world around them hums with chatter and music, but for a moment, everything fades. He doesn't approach, doesn't speak. He simply watches, his expression unreadable until his gaze finally lifts to hers. Across the room, their eyes meet, and time folds in on itself. A faint, knowing smile passes between them, soft, bittersweet, and filled with everything words cannot hold. There's no rush toward reunion, no desperate embrace. Instead, there is a recognition, an acceptance. They are no longer who they were, but the love they shared still lives in the spaces between them. The gallery feels suddenly too small for the weight of what passes silently between their eyes, yet neither of them moves closer. In this restrained stillness lies the closure their story demands, not through reunion, but through quiet acknowledgement. As Ethan turns to leave, Sophie's voice enters not spoken aloud, but as if echoing from her soul, a narration threading through the scene. Some loves don't survive bloodlines, but sometimes the love that breaks us is also the love that sets us free. The words carry over images of Ethan stepping out into the night, the gallery's glow behind him, the sound of distant traffic wrapping around the silence of his departure. Sophie watches him go, her chest heavy but not shattered. There are no tears, only a calm acceptance, the kind that comes when pain has finally transmuted into strength. The screen lingers on her painting one last time, the hands nearly touching, forever divided, forever reaching. Fade out on Ethan disappearing into the dark, Sophie standing in the light of her art, their parallel lives continuing, their love no longer a bond that binds, but a force that freed them both. It is not a happily ever after, it is something deeper, more human, more enduring. A quiet end, unresolved, but at peace.